Today we're going to talk about distance and displacement. Distance is a term that you've used a lot while you were growing up. Distance is the total length of the path traveled. So for example, if I decide I want to go for a walk and I start at my house and I walk for 3 miles and I turn and I walk for 4 miles, turn and walk for 3 miles, and turn back and walk for 4 miles. Okay, we could find the total distance I traveled for my walk. So again, we said it was 3 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles. So to find the total distance I traveled, I simply add them up. So 3 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4, so I've gone 14 miles. Now, again, I use the unit of miles simply because it's typically what we use when we're talking about a distance you walk or drive. But we could use meters, inches, feet, and all the other distance units that you've learned along the way. Now the symbol that we use for distance isn't just one. We've got a few to choose from. Sometimes we use the letter X, sometimes we use the letter Y, and sometimes we use the letter D. Often we use X when we're talking about motion in the X direction, and when we talk about motion in the Y direction we use Y, and D we just kind of use whenever. So it can be any of these three. Now, we say that distance is a scalar. Well, what does that mean? Well, there's lots of different scalars, but distance is one of them. Why? Well, distance has a magnitude, but no direction. When we said, how far did I go? We said 14 miles. We didn't say which direction I went, therefore it is a scalar. There's no direction. Next up, displacement. Displacement's the straight line length from start to finish, including the direction. So let's go back and look at this example. We want to go the straight line distance from start to finish. Well, I started right here. I finished right here. I didn't go anywhere as far as displacement is concerned. My displacement would be 0. I started and finished at the same exact spot. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at one that would have a displacement that's not 0. So say I start at my house again, and this time I walk 3 miles, and then I walk 4 miles down, and I stop because maybe there's an ice cream shop there or something. So I stop and I'm just going to hang out there. So now we want to know what's my displacement. Well, we need to take the straight line length. So I started here and I finished down there. So I need to know this length. Well, I went directly to the right and then directly down. So we're going to say that's a 90-degree angle for this. And so therefore I can use the properties of a right triangle, the Pythagorean theorem. 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared, take the square root, and we get 5. So this would be 5 miles. So my displacement is 5 miles, but I'm not done. I need to include the direction. In a picture, we can include the direction simply by putting an arrow into the picture. However, there will be times when we want to include a more specific direction. So maybe we have this set up so we've got north, south, east, and west, and then we would say, okay, well, I went this direction, that is southeast. And eventually we will even start talking about this angle right here. So we can be very specific with our directions. You'll notice the units are the same, symbols a little bit different. Similar, except they have the arrow above it. That arrow reminds us to include the direction. Okay? Also, we say displacement is a type of vector. Why? It includes magnitude, 5 miles, that's our magnitude, but it also includes the direction, southeast. Again, eventually might include some angles and things like that. So we've got distance, we've got displacement. They're similar. They use the same units. They've got very similar symbols. They're also very different. Over here, my distance traveled was 14 miles, but my displacement was 0 because I ended up back where I started. Okay? Over here, my displacement is going to be 5 miles, but my distance, I went 3 this way and 4 that way. I did not go the shortest way. I didn't cut through any yards. Okay, so I actually walked 7 miles, but my displacement is only 5. So there's some similarities and some differences with distance and displacement.